Love's for beginners, ain't no winners. It slips through your fingers, I ain't telling no lies. So F all the drama, F the karma. Just do what you wanna, promise you got time. Be you and keep looking forward. Don't you look backwards and you'll be fine. Come through and say what you need to. Don't let them put you down. Baby, let me tell you what it feels like. Being independent, no trouble inside. It's like magic, living like a pet. 'Cause baby, you deserve the best in life. Let me tell you what it feels like. Being whose mama, yeah, treat yourself right. It's like magic, living like a pet. 'Cause baby, you deserve the best in life. Come get your future, know you wanna. She'll never betray ya, she ain't telling no lies. So break the glass ceiling, find your meaning, make truth out of dreaming, yeah. Baby, let me tell you what it feels like. Being independent, no trouble inside. It's like magic, living like a
So some of you might know my background. I've been a Porsche owner for over 30 years. I've had about 4 or 5 911s. And I'm not trying to boast or anything. I bought the cars when they were relatively lower price. Back in the day, our 1983 911, we bought it back in 1995. And now they've gone up in value. The cars have become collector cars. And but I've always been an enthusiast ever since I was 21 years old. When I bought my first one for $6,000 down in Los Angeles, I've always been a 911 Porsche fanatic. And now the 911 was started in 1965. And the evolution of this car has dramatically changed over the years. So what we're going to show you today, what I'm going to show you guys today are some of the newer models, with the exception of one air-cooled car. Most of these cars are water-cooled cars. And we're going to start off with the GT version, which is the GT3 and the GT2 and the GT3 RS. So here we have a 997. So a few minutes ago we were talking about the 993. So the 993 was the last of the air-cooled cars, and it went over to the 996, which became the first water-cooled variations. And then after the 996, it became the 997. And this is the 997 version of a GT3, which is the Porsche GT car brand. That is the sports-oriented, model of the 911. So these cars are extremely track-focused, very fast. They share a lot of similar parts with the regular standard Carrera, the standard Porsche, the standard 911, but this one is the GT model, so it has probably about a 400 horsepower engine, 0 to 60 in about under 4 seconds, top speed of about 190 miles per hour, but it's primarily used for track. This, by the way, is a Sharks Works car, so which means Sharks Works has a tuner facility down in California that specialized in special exhaust and other type of racing components. So if you look at the wing right here, this is not your standard GT3 wing. The wing is a little bit modified. It is higher and it's made of carbon fiber on the very top. If you can see with the grains, this car is actually a dirty car, but it's got tinted windows, looks beautiful. It's got the chrono package. It's got a racing, you can't really tell, but it's got a racing stick shift and racing type of components inside, also racing seats. Next to it we have a 991. So it went from 997 to 991, and 991 came out in the 2012 era, I believe. 997 was from 2005 to 2010, and the 991 came out in 2011. So this is another GT3. This is the 991 version. So this one is a little bit larger than the 997. It's probably about 1.5 inches wider in width. This one's got the exposed carbon hood, which is obviously an option. It's got the larger wheels. This has got 20-inch wheels in the front, where the 997 here has 19-inch wheels in the front. So it's definitely a larger car. But if you can see that the silhouette, the shape of the 911 really hasn't changed much. The horizontal, background shape, the silhouette of the car is very similar to the 997 versus the 991 model. This one here is a 21-inch rear wheel, and you can tell here it's got this is the stock wing that this car came with. By the way, this is a GT3 RS. The RS stands for Rennsport, which is racing sport in German. So this is the more modified of the GT3. So this one probably has about 450 horsepower. And then moving over here, we have a white GT2. Now the GT2, this is a 997 model again, like the black one we just saw. But this is a GT2. So the GT2, the difference between the GT2 and the GT3 is that the GT2 is turbocharged, whereas the GT3s over here are normally aspirated, which means they don't have turbocharged. So some people will say that the turbocharged engine takes away from the experience a little bit. It's quieter, it's a little smoother, but it's also a little bit faster. Actually, I should say it's a lot faster. So this is the 997. This is the first year that the GT2 came out as a 997. Again, this is the stock wing in the back. It's got special type of modified wheels. I'm not quite sure what they are. They are forged line wheels, really beautiful. And it's got a very cool interior. Look at this interior. Very reminiscent of the 70s type of look with these psychedelic seats. Yeah, this is a GT2, and it has right here the tow hook in front. So obviously this guy tracks his car. We have here a 991 GT3 RS, like the light blue one that we just saw, but this is a white one. And what signifies the GT3 RS versus the standard GT3 rather, it has these little strakes here in front that allow air to go through, and it gives it a little bit more cooling for the front brakes. So the other models don't have that. Plus the GT3 RSs have the little intakes on the front hoods that the regular standard GT3 does not have. What we're looking at right here is in a mid-90s 993 model. And this was one of the last of the air-cooled cars. Actually, this was the last of the air-cooled Porsches. Like I said, Porsche started developing the 911 back in 1965 with a 6-cylinder air-cooled engine. So it went from 911 to 964 and eventually to the, 911 to the G body to 964, and then it ended up in the 993. And this is a 993, and it looks like it might be a regular Carrera 4S. Let's take a look at the back here. It is a Carrera, standard Carrera. It's actually, this car started the wide body look back in the 90s. And it's got about a 250 horsepower air-cooled engine in it. And but very modern for back in the day of the 90s. This was actually a very performance-oriented automobile, and it really got up and go. It's not as fast by today's standards, but it's definitely a wonderful car, and these things have gone up in value. So this one right here is definitely a collector's car because they don't make air-cooled cars anymore. And so it's a really good example of a 993 model from the mid-90s. Hey guys, so just had the car serviced by Cantrell's here in Bellevue. Did a great job. Craig the tech gave the car a clean bill of health. So if you guys have Porsches, 911s, Mercedes, or primarily, you know, Porsche brands, I highly recommend you bring it over to Cantrell's here in Bellevue, Washington. Craig and the tech will be here with some other techs, and Jeff's the owner, proprietor, great guy, very friendly, great service, very reasonable pricing. And you know what, man, it's the way to go. When you have these type of cars, you want to only go to people that you really trust. And I've been here 3 or 4 times before. A little fast story. When I was in the market for this particular model, which is a 997, the cars that I brought in to have them looked at for a PPI, you know, an inspection, they told me that the cars had over revs, and over revs are, I'll bring that up in another video, but they were really honest about it. So they prevented me from buying cars that could have been potentially catastrophic. But this car that I bought 2 years ago with my wife is a fabulous automobile. It's a 2006, and I absolutely love it. And they just gave it a clean bill of health, and I feel really awesome about it. It made my day. So I'm on my way home back to Whidbey Island to start selling more real estate. So again, Cantrell's here in Bellevue, Washington. Check in with Jeff. He'll take care of you. Thanks, guys.
Promise you got time.